a plant. Cutting a plant right off. Can that plant grow anymore? No, that plant can't grow anymore. So you just cut your child's ability to grow and to be able to have a really, really way to process their emotions and feelings. And so what we want to do is you want to listen. Now, when you listen, what you do is sometimes you'll need to get down on their level if you have a toddler, and you look them in the eye and you concentrate. If you're cooking something, you turn it off. When your child comes to you and wants to share with you, first of all, that's a gift. Because most children are so fear-bonded, they don't know what to do. They don't know how to react because they're worried that if I bother mom when she's cooking or if I bother dad when he's in the garage, you know what's going to happen? Working on the car or something, or on his favorite situation with the building something, that I'm going to get shouted down, that I'm going to get pushed away. And that's called rejection. And that's going to be a problem because I don't want to be rejected. I'm trying to get my parents' attention. Well, when your child comes to you and says to you, I feel this way, I'm going to tell you that's a gift. That is a true gift because you get the opportunity then to listen to your child. You get the opportunity as a parent to be able to get down on your child's level, look them in the eye, listen intently, and then what they do is they share their emotions, and when they share their emotions, what they're really sharing with you is who they are in the moment, and you get to be with them in that moment. It's a privilege. You get to be with them in that moment. Now, if you cut them off, like I said, they won't grow. They'll internalize those emotions, and what will happen is they will be shut down. And then they're going to have problems with all their relationships the rest of their life. They're going to pick a job that will actually be a job that doesn't have much to do with people, like an accountant or a banker, and that's our scientist or somebody that doesn't do much with people, somebody in the forestry service or something. So that's because of how people were raised. They didn't have a voice. They didn't let their child have a voice. Now, to do that, once you listen to them, you're going to be telling them, I'm glad to be with you in this situation. And behavioral scientists and brain scientists tell us that when we're glad to be with somebody, that brings joy. So when your son or daughter, your child, is seeing you there, listening to them intently, they know that you're glad to be with them. So they don't feel alone in their emotions. Emotions can be overwhelming. I mean, just look at your emotions or my emotions. They're sometimes overwhelming. They get out of control. It's hard. Well, one of the reasons they get out of control for an adult is because they weren't processed. We didn't learn how to process them as children because we didn't have anybody that was listening to us. And so you can give your child a great gift. Now, let me tell you what else it does, because it is phenomenal what listening does. Just think about it. When your husband or your wife listens to you, how does it make you feel? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like I'm important. I'm valuable. Well, you do the same thing, only at a much greater intensity with your child. When you listen to your child, you build their value. You build their worthiness. You build their self-image. You are the one. Stop and think about it. You have a baby that comes, and that baby has nothing. It's a clean slate. That baby has to become a person within 2.5 years. 2 to 2.5 years. Become a person. Well, how is that done? Well, behavioral scientists tell us it's done by imitation. So when you are listening and when you are there with your child, you're building their self-image. You're building how they feel about themselves. You're building who they are. What a gift as a parent you can give your child. That is such a blessing. It's such a blessing. But they will feel more valuable, more important, more worthy. They won't feel rejected. They won't feel defective. They won't feel like they don't matter. See, one of the greatest gifts a parent can give to a child is to show them experientially by listening that they matter, they have value, that what they say and what they are sharing is vitally important. So it is such a gift that you as the parent can give your child. And what you're giving them is really better for you, because what's going to happen is when you listen to them intentionally, they're going to feel like you're with them. They're going to be able to process their emotions. They're not going to be so stuck. They're not going to be angry. They're not going to be sad and get stuck in that. And you don't want that. And I'll tell you what, your child isn't going to want it, because that's what happens to adults that don't get listened to. Is they're not, because it happens over and over and over again. What happens is they, as they get older, they just forget talking very much, and that's the quiet, and we call them shy and all that. But they were just shut down when they were children, and it's really sad. It's really hard. But you can do it. Now, here's the problem that you are going to have, and everybody has, and that's this. What happens if your child is angry at you? What happens if your child is upset with you because of what you just said to them, or what you asked them to do, or what you are doing with them? New problem. Well, if you believe that your child is you, then you're going to tell them, you're going to shut them off, you're going to cut their stem, and the plant won't grow. Well, what's going to happen is that if you can say that my child is not me, and my child has a right to their own feelings at any given point in time, that's a right conferred on them by God Almighty. And you, the parent, are supposed to be training them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord, according to Proverbs. And them, when they're older, they won't depart from it. Well, guess what? You have an opportunity to really, really make a difference. And if you will not make it about you, see, if you get triggered, if you get emotionally upset because your child says, I'm angry at you, well, then that's your issue. And that's something you need to look at. But you will do great damage to your child by shutting them down, not listening because they said something you didn't like. Have you ever said anything that somebody else didn't like? Well, guess what? It's a problem. So let them be who they are. Let them be who they are. Let them flourish. Let them blossom. Because if you will listen intently, and then you will be there with them, their attitude, their feelings are going to change anyway. You know why? Because we all feel we can go through so much more in life when someone's glad to be with us, when someone is there with us. And that is a truth. And so your son or your daughter, your child, is not going to have the same feelings about you, because now you're listening to them. You're helping them process these uncontrollable emotions of anger and frustration and difficulty, all these different things. And you have an opportunity to let them know that you're with them. And that's why they're going to change, because all they want to do, wives, think about it. Mothers, think about it, particularly wives. What do you want your husband to do? Fix you and tell you what to do? Is that what you want? No, you want to be listened to. Oh my gosh. If you want to be listened to as a mother, you need to recognize your child wants to be listened to. You'll have a lot less problems with your child when they're listened to. And what will happen is they will be more secure. They will be have more capacity for emotional self-control, and you won't have children that want negative are looking for and trying to get negative attention. Children need their parents to be with them. If they don't have their parents with them and their parents cut them off or they're too busy, what ends up happening is they will get your attention one way or another. They'll get it negatively. We have a person in our church whose children got his and his wife's attention, particularly his. He worked all the time, and it was negative. They did things that were against the law. They had to go to jail, all kinds of problems. Why? Because they didn't listen to their children, because they didn't know how. And you parents have an opportunity to have a really, really good result. Well, I want you to know that successful parenting that Kevin Hickman and myself have created is for you to know how to be able to raise very, very successful and well-adjusted and secure children that have a great self-image. And that they don't have to fight the whole thing for the rest of their life. They don't have to go and have all kinds of emotional problems, because you, the parent, can make a huge difference. So if you come to joystones.org, that's joystones.org, and you look up successful parenting, what you're going to find is there's a whole class, there's a whole series of videos and CDs that we put together for successful parenting. So you want to have successful children, and you want to have successful children because God has entrusted you with those kids. You have a responsibility before God to go ahead and raise children that are more submitted to God. They're more, maybe not even the word submitted. They're just good with God. They just have a great attitude towards God. So you keep come to our website and take this information down and let us know what we can help you with. You may have problems with your children. Well, one of the first things you can do is listen to them. So we are going to be talking about some other subjects, and you will be able to get ready for more information. joystones.org. Talk to you later.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, you were listening to Pastor Frank Lewis of Joy Stones. And again, go to www.joystones.org for more about successful parenting. Just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I know you like the subject, and I know you're into it.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, again, we are back with an amazing segment on successful parenting with Pastor Frank Lewis and Mr.
Kevin Hickman.
Mr. Kevin Hickman, and we are going back to reflecting and mirroring. Pastor?
Well, this is really something that I wanted to go ahead and talk about that is really important. And we didn't know how important it was at Joy Stones. I'm the pastor of Joy Stones Fellowship, and we put together a few years ago a whole program called Successful Parenting. And we see all the time parents don't know how to raise kids. And so one of the things that we knew that we had to encourage children to feel. We knew that. That was very, very important, because who we are in the moment is what we feel, or the emotions we're feeling. Secondly, we knew that listening was very important. In fact, one of the visions of Joy Stones is to give the voice of God back to his people. So we knew that listening was very important. So we set it up at Joy Stones so that we listen to each other. It's a part of our DNA. It's a part of who we are. But one thing we didn't know was the value of mirroring. Now you're saying, what? Mirroring? Mirroring is very, very important. As a matter of fact, if parents do not mirror properly for their children will be, like this mirror right here. This mirror right here gives an accurate reflection. When I look into this mirror, I see me with, with some of the blotches and some of the other things. But this mirror gives an accurate reflection. Now imagine if I took a hammer to that mirror, would it give an accurate reflection? No, it wouldn't. Well, guess what? If you do not mirror your child, you do not reflectively listen to them and repeat back what you have heard them say, you will be causing them to have a incorrect and very, very inaccurate way of viewing themselves. I ask you a question. How does a child know who they are? How does a child know who they are? Do you ever think about that? Well, it's because of this. And this is the mirror that God has given you the responsibility to mirror back to your child what you are hearing them say. And it is one of the most powerful, absolutely one of the most powerful things that you can do for your child. We didn't really understand it till we did a lot of research for our successful parenting. But now we understand it, and we've incorporated it into the class that we teach on successful parenting, also into the church, because mirroring allows me to be able to say to my wife, honey, I believe you said this, or to other people in the church. Well, guess what? They're adults. They love it, because you know what happens? If I can mirror back to you what you just said to me in my own words, do you know what actually happens? It's remarkable. It's stunning. It's amazing. There's an emotional connection made. It is an emotional connection. When I tune in, when I actually intentionally tune in to my child's emotional position, emotional place, emotional being, if you will, then what happens is I tune in like you used to tune in a radio. What happens is I am on the same wavelength. I synchronize with my child's emotions. When two people synchronize with their emotions, it's like bing, and a spark goes off. And what happens is there's an emotional connection. And if you really want to see the power of an emotional connection, see, it's what God created us for. God created us for a relationship. He didn't create us for a superficial relationship. He created us to be naked and not ashamed. But guess what? We are all naked, but we're ashamed, and we're hiding. And we don't hide behind the fig leaf like Adam and Eve did. We put the fig leaf over our face. And we think, oh boy, now nobody can see me. Wrong. What happens is that I end up in a situation where I'm hiding who I am. I don't have emotional connection, and people are so starving for emotional connection because that's how God wired us. So what we need to do is we need to learn how to mirror. We need to learn how to reflect back. Now, what's very interesting about a mirror is that it reflects accurately. It reflects accurately. Look at it. Oh, my goodness. And what happens is I end up in a situation where it reflects accurately back to me. Now, the mirror doesn't talk to me and say, you need to do a little work here. Your hair's too long. You've got a few wrinkles. It doesn't say that. It just reflects back to me. Okay? Reflects back to you. And what happens is that the mirror gives an accurate reflection. Well, if you're going to mirror the emotions of your child, you got to be accurate. Okay? You can't tell your child what they need to do. That's not mirroring. You can't tell your child how you feel. That's not about them. What you got to do is you got to say, Johnny, or if you say, Mary, I hear that you are sad. I hear that you're sad. It sounds like you are really hurting. It sounds like you're angry. Well, what you've done is you've now synchronized with their anger. And when you synchronize with their anger, bam, there's an emotional connection. But if you try to fix them, you try to shut them down, you try to do anything other than mirror accurately, then what happens is you will end up with them not being able to have emotional connection with you. And that's what you want, because attachment is a key in all of our lives. We all want to be attached. We all want to bond with the people that are important in our lives. And hopefully, that's an understatement. Your child is the most important next to your husband, or if you're not married, your child is the most important. Okay? Well, what do you have to do? You have to listen and mirror. Reflect back. The real key words on this are "it sounds like," or "I'm hearing you say." Those are the practical words of reflection. And your child just will oh, that feels so good to be knowing that you're truly hearing me. See, listening intentionally is the beginning, but mirroring back is really where the emotional connection is. And it's very, very exciting to have an emotional connection with your child, because your child will love you more, love themselves more. Why? Because they're emotionally connected to. Think about it. If there's no emotional connection with your child, if you just shut your child down, you cut the stem of the plant, you cut the plant, they can't grow. Well, your child is the same way. Without emotional connection, they're going to be looking for emotional connection for the rest of their lives. That's what I did. I did that for my life until I learned these principles. And what happens is your child will do that, and they'll continue to do that. And you don't want that. You don't want them looking for emotional connection for the rest of their lives. That's no good, because what will happen if they're a boy and they grow into a man, they'll be looking for mother's emotional connection with their wife. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. I've talked to my wife. She doesn't want to be a mother. And I don't think you, ladies that are watching, you want to be mothers to your husbands. You want to be mothers to your children. So please do this work, and it'll really make a difference. Now, what it also does is it keeps you from shaming your child. And that's vitally important. Most parents shame their child. They don't even realize they're shaming their child, but they're shaming their child. And you don't want to shame your child. Now, I know if you were shamed, it's going to be very, very difficult to not shame your child, but that's not what you want to do. Because when your child is in shame, they're like Adam and Eve. They're going to hide. The real them, they're not going to be able to be the real person that God created them to be. They're going to spend the rest of their life trying to find out who they are. See the power of parents? Parents, you've got so much power. God has invested you. He's put you in a position to be like Him to your children. And you know what? If you are not doing that job, you're going to end up with children that are not going to be emotionally well adjusted. They're not going to be emotionally mature, and they're going to actually look for emotional connections in all the wrong places. And so it's vitally important that you continue to recognize the value of making this an intentional commitment on your part to accurately mirror your child. Now, what you end up doing when you accurately mirror your child is you end up putting your child in a position where, with that emotional connection, they become more and more healthy. They become more and more bonded. See, they don't get stuck in their emotions. They don't get stuck in strong emotions. Why? Because you're there to mirror to them what they are saying to you, and so they have an accurate reflection. And they know it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be, frustrated. It's okay to be who they are. See, if you don't accurately mirror, and the mirror is got cracks in it, you're not telling them that it's okay to be them. And that's not going to work well. That is absolutely not going to work well. So the key here is to recognize that you're in control of your child, of how your child is going to end up reacting emotionally, and how well they will be able to work in relationships. Relationships can be very difficult if your child doesn't know who they are. My wife did not know who she was. For years and years and years, she didn't know who she was because her parents did not reflect back to her who she was. They didn't tune in to who she was. And so she never knew who she was. And you don't want your child to grow up and not know who they are. Maybe you suffer from that situation. You have a great opportunity to mirror accurately who your child is, because and mirror so that they can know and feel that emotional connection. So at Successful Parenting, what we teach is we listen, but then we mirror and we reflect back to the child what it is that we just heard them say. By saying, it sounds like, or I heard you say, those kind of words will now be a reflection of whatever your child said to you. But you got to be okay with your child being angry at you, or angry at his brother or sister, angry at his friends. It's got to be okay, because if it's not okay, then you're going to cut them off, and you don't want to cut them off. So at Successful Parenting, we believe that it's critical for you to do the work that God assigned you to do, and do it well. So we're here to help you. We're here to walk the road with you, and we will help you, and we will walk the road. All you have to do is come to joystones.org and leave us your email. Tell us what you're having some problems with. Tell us what you like about our message, or what you don't like, or what you think, what you think about it. But we're here to help you. And joystones.org is the place to come for help for successful parenting. And we're glad that we have the opportunity to help you to be the most successful parent you can possibly be.
We're gonna serve